I love to listen to everyone's stories. It's amazing to see how people grow, how they face their challenges, and why they are who they are, and why they act the way they act. So I like to see what's the background, what happened, and that's what makes my love increase for my neighbor, because I know him, right? Like we know people, and that's the beauty of the gospel. When we know people, when we get to minister them or do whatever when we get closer to them, then our love grows, and we grow as a community, we grow as a city, as country.
It is time for another episode of The Cultural Hall. It's funny to me, a long time ago, as we reach the Light the World time of year, my mind is thought back to the first ever giving machine that I went to. I was able to be there as they unveiled the first ever giving machine and showed people, hey, this is how this works, and you can buy a goat, and it was the big thing, and it was in the Joseph Smith Memorial Building in downtown Salt Lake. And as part of that event, I met a woman. Her name is Gaynalyn Condi. Yes, that's her name, Gaynalyn, and she begged me to be an episode of The Cultural Hall. And now here she is. I want to say this is maybe your third or fourth time back, but we welcome back in this episode Gaynalyn Condi. Thank you for being here.
Even though you teach false teachings every time you tell that story.
False teachings. I'm not so sure false teachings, but I am grateful that you have brought someone else with you, Caroline Milazzo. Tell me how to say it. I didn't ask the last name. Caroline, how do you say it?
That's correct. Milazzo.
Milazzo. Now, you
Yes.
guys have been working together on a completely not Light the World sort of project. Caroline, tell me I got this press release last night, reached out to Gaynalyn and said, we've got a chat, and here we are the next morning. Caroline, tell me how the not so secret lives of real Mormon wives came together, and then also tell me why it's not the not so secret lives of real members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints wives.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. I'm honored to be working this amazing project with amazing ladies. My accent's like that because I'm originally from Brazil. So we have a podcast too in Portuguese of the Come Follow Me.
Oh, get out.
And
What is it called?
it's called Martha Maria Podcast. It's like Martha Mary.
Okay.
And then I think Emily found us and wanted us to be part of the book. So here I am, and I met Gaynalyn, and it was incredible how we all are in the synergy of doing this book. So the book came out of an idea about, of course, the show. We want to show stories of active members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, how our lives are not that secret, how our daily lives, how we truly how we strive to be better, believe in Jesus Christ, and how the church is like a worldwide church. It's not like only a Utah thing. Like we have people from all over the world with beautiful stories, stories of faith, how we have everyone has their trials, everyone has their path, right? And how the gospel really blesses our lives.
So, Gaynalyn, you guys see this TV show comes out on Hulu and you're like, that's not us. Or was it, there's more to it than that? Or give me kind of your initial response to The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
Well, I love Caroline, and I love how she's already kind of talked about this project. And I would just say this, everyone involved in the project has only gratitude for the women of the show. And I think that surprises people when we say that. We've gotten some pushback that we're trying to say we're real and they're not real with the title, or that we're active, so we're really members of the church and Mormon, but they're not. We don't feel that way at all. We feel like they started a conversation, and the conversation needs to be broadened. The show really reflects a certain aspect of influencers and maybe they're adjacent to Mormonism or they're active, whatever. But there is this need, I think, Richie, you know this, there's a sense in the world that like there's the Osmonds and then there's this big vacuum of representation of
Mhm.
the everyday member, and that we are very diverse. And so I said yes to the project for two big reasons. One, the women that were being invited were not all from one monolith, right? They were from different countries. They were having different career experiences. Some were converts. They weren't necessarily from Utah, right? They were diverse. And then the number two reason was the goal of the publisher was to reach a never member, non-member audience.
Mhm.
I think sometimes as content creators, which all three of us are, we create content within a vacuum. We create content for members of our own faith. And it's hard to break through that wall. And so we've already broken a ton of records on Amazon, beating out Taylor Swift and Cher's book before the book's even out on Monday.
Yeah. Yeah, you
Thank
did.
you.
Yes, you
Thank
did.
you. And so
Take that,
criticism,
Taylor Swift. Take that, Taylor
we
Swift.
love Taylor Swift. We love Taylor Swift, but to have that conversation already happening before the book is out is really because of the title, and it's really because of the cover, and it's also because of the women that have already done a reality show. So we have nothing but love for them, and we're grateful they started a conversation. But my daughter just got home from a mission from the South, and in the South, the average person thinks Mormons are from a reality show and or a headline and or the Osmonds. And there's so much to being a member of the church, and there's so much diversity. This book hopefully will start more conversations. It's not a judgment about what's already been said.
So, Caroline, tell me how you get brought into this. How did they find you? Were you like, oh, I don't know what this group is. I don't want to have anything to do with it. Tell me about your experience and why you decided to do it.
Yeah, so I totally agree with Gainley. We are very thankful for the ladies, and I think it's like the Broadway Book of Mormon show that I remember. I think was the church press said, okay, now you watch the show, now read the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the same context for us. Like, you watch the show, read our book, so you can see more and grow more your knowledge about the church and this. So as soon as they reach out to us, so our podcast is like for Portuguese speaking. In We mainly have people from Brazil and Portugal, and some people from Africa, all over the world who speak Portuguese.
Mm-hmm.
We always use books of David Regis, from David Regis, in our podcast. And we were doing some projects for the Cedar Fort. We were kind of volunteering to bring some content to Portuguese, to translate some of the books. And then we heard about this project. So we are four in our podcast, for women and so we were like, okay, who's gonna, because they want one of us only, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they chose me to be part of this book, and of course I said yes, because I really want to show to the world other experiences, other perspectives of the gospel of the church. And yeah, I said yes for sure.
I'm glad to hear, with it being four women and they had to pick one, it sounded like you were setting the grounds for like a battle royale to the death, that you were going to have to fight the other women, and the last one standing was the one that was able to do it. But they said you would be a great representation. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think I'm the oldest one of the group. I was the one that came up with the idea. So they're like, okay, you go. So of the podcast, I really wanted to start doing something for the Portuguese speaking members, and especially women. So it's been a blessing.
I think I'm the oldest one in the book, though. I'm 53, and I love the other women Caroline works with on the podcast, but I'm so grateful Caroline stepped up, because she's just lovely on every level. And it's hard to write a book when English is your first language. I'm just in awe of, I don't know if you realize this, Richie, it's in the press release. The turnaround on this book, I have 15 published books at this point in the world, and I've never seen a project come together this fast. And a lot of the women, other than Allison and I, are not writers. Like, Allison and I are published authors, but all these other women have been extraordinary, and especially the two Portuguese speaking women that are involved in the book. Like, it's hard to write it in, it's my first language. So I have so much respect for Caroline and Fernanda for how they have stepped in, and the other women that don't write professionally. Like, this is not their first, gig.
Yeah.
So
Or the way that it would be hard for me, right? I can
yeah,
talk to you for 25 days straight and we could
yes,
get into some crazy stuff in 25
yes,
days. But if
yes,
you're like, hey, write a book about it, I'd be like,
yeah,
all right.
yeah.
Do I
And
do it in pen?
I have 16 published books and I still feel that way every time I work on a book. And there are Book of Mormon prophets that validate us on that, Richie, that like there's prophets in the Book of Mormon that are like, listen, if I could stand on a tower and talk to you, great, but I've got to chisel in these plates my thoughts. And so it's a really vulnerable process to try to write and to share. And we didn't get to read each other's stories until the final manuscript was done, which was also interesting to see how the publisher had picked us so that there was this broad brush perspective offered to the world, knowing that these 8 women still don't represent the whole church as a total, like,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
But it's definitely a further conversation and insight for a never member to pick it up if they've already watched the show or if they haven't watched the show.
You mentioned the 70 days from sort of idea to publishing. That's pretty impressive.
It's extraordinary. Yeah.
You know, unprecedented
It
impressive.
is. And to break the records that we are breaking on Amazon is also unprecedented. And so for critics that have been triggered by the title or the cover, you'll see on the title it says Mormon in quotes because the church issued a statement when these shows were coming out because they saw there was some misconception and misunderstanding. And we're hoping we're just having further conversations. The use of real has been questioned as if it's a reflection on other people in the world and their life experience. It's not. It's to reflect that every story you're about to read is a real story in that book.
Hmm. And then also worth noting, you talk about how our pains of writing are experienced by the Book of Mormon prophets.
Yes.
I'm one of the Book of Mormon prophets where it's like these plates. No, I mean not literally, but this is.
Oh, I thought you were breaking news that you're one of the 3 Nephites
Yeah.
today here on the Cultural Hall.
Yeah, well, and watch out because all of a sudden I'll vanish after I give you a toothbrush, after you had prayed for a toothbrush, and then I disappear. No, but I'm one of the prophets that, like, if you asked me to write, I'd be like, and my dad gave me these plates, and it's been 100 years, and I'm
Yes.
giving them to someone else. Like
And
that's
I don't really want to do it, but
Yeah.
I did it. You
That-
got one sentence.
that's my writing ability here, and I passed them to someone else. So Caroline, tell me like what this project is. I think Gainalyn kind of put it a little bit. It's stories of women. You put something together and said, "This is how I found the church. This is what my life is." Like, what did you put together? What is in this book?
Yeah, so I we were supposed to tell our stories, right? Something about they told us say something about how Jesus Christ is for you, how is your life as a wife, how is your love for the gospel, and that I brought in my mother was a convert in the church, and I wish we could have we have some edits, right? I firstly I put her whole conversion story, but it was too much, so we try to cut some things, edit some things. But it was so it was hard to do like you as the main character, right? It's hard to talk about you and how and all of the stories remember of dialogues of things that happened like a while ago. But it was amazing how all the emotions came in when you were writing your story and you're talking about the gospel and experiences that you have, miracles in our lives. I think since I was born, I had miracles in my life happening, and it was a blessing really to write it down and put things from my heart. Um,
So,
and I'm excited.
is it I get for lack of a better way, since I haven't seen the book, obviously, like have it and be able to look and fan through it. Is it like here's 20 pages about Caroline and it's like growing up and my views on motherhood and how the church and I interact? Is it just like I was born on a rainy day in Rio de Janeiro and this and my mother after? Is it narrative like it? How much are we getting of each of your guys' lives? Because that's the thing that I think would be so hard is even if you had 1,000-page book that divided by 8 women is 120 pages, give or take some, that's still impossible to put your entire life into. Hi, here is me in this.
Yes, it is really hard. I think the book has, let me check here, 269 pages.
Okay.
So we were told to write about 4,000 to 8,000 words, right?
Wow.
And yeah, it was in a short period of time. That was the challenging thing.
Hmm.
But I think, and we all have chapters in our chapters, right?
Hmm.
Gainally.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it is written narrative form, and that was hard for me because I'm a nonfiction writer,
Hmm.
and Allison is a fiction writer. So she's very used to writing narrative style. So I had a learning curve, even though I'm a published author, because the way people that have read my other books, I will share a story of my life, but then I teach a principle, and
Hmm.
that's more nonfiction style. They really wanted it to feel like we were telling the story, and they had a focus group that was never members and members, and it is not preachy. And so when we talk about a principle of the gospel, or we tell a part of our story that involves the church, it is not like a sermon about a principle of the gospel. It is just seamlessly in our story. And so it is very narrative. And that was hard for me, as well, as Caroline said, to go back and think about what was the dialogue I had on my baptism day with my stepfather and my father. I talk about my parents' divorce before divorce was part of the church. I talk about losing two of my sisters, one to suicide and lupus. And so I talk about this beige tracksuit. Richie, you are hot off the presses getting, like, this is Lifetime, the tracksuit that I went viral dancing in this video. And so I start my section with the viral video this year that went viral in a negative way in some ways because of how awkwardly I dance and how beige I look. But I kind of use that as my arc of how I've walked with Jesus my whole life. But some of the other women, Allison's a convert, and she talks about her childhood in the slums and her abusive parents. We hear about Fernanda building the Bohm Empire, the fashion mogul that she is, but everything's narrative. And so the goal was, we're just going to sit with you and tell you our story as if you're reading our story on the way you would hopefully feel on a show or a movie. And then you're going to just see our faith in that. We're not going to have to spend a lot of time. It was pulled out because I kept slipping into that, where I would want to write my old way, which is
Hmm.
to tell a principle and then tell a story. That's how I teach. And they just wanted us to tell the story, which was, I share about my first kiss with my husband. It's pretty cringy. So everything's cringy from my
me
perspective.
too.
I feel really cringy when I read books. I really do. Like, I tell about getting garments with and shopping for my honeymoon with my grandma. It's pretty cringy. And
Oh,
then, everyone says that, like, they're like laughing, and then my sister dies by suicide. So it's like, how I am, Richie. It's
sure.
really how that is. Yeah.
I appreciate knowing your side of it. So, speaking to the editors of this, they were telling me they loved working with all the great women, but working particularly with you, Gainalyn, that like you would share a story, and that at the end of every story, you would always say, and that's why you need to be baptized a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And they're like, Gainalyn, you're not getting it. So every story she had, they
Not
were like,
true, Richie.
let's
Not
exit
true.
out. We get how you feel about it, but
No, no,
it's a
I
different
didn't
story.
get that far, but I did find myself repeating, like, did you just hear that story? This is the principle of that
Sure.
story. And they really just wanted us to tell the story. And so people, and I feel that way, like, there's this Netflix series that is, fiction about a Jewish rabbi. And so I think I love reading books about people's true stories and learning about their faith because I just hear their story. And I think that's what the publisher really wanted, is to just juxtaposition to what's already out there about the church. What about you just sit with some women and they tell you their real story, and then you decide about their faith because you hear more of their lived experience?
Caroline, sometimes people will be involved in projects like this and feel like God called them to be a part of it. Do you feel like that for you?
Yes, definitely. My whole story, if you read in the book, how I felt like I was brought back to Utah and be part of this podcast project. I feel like the Lord's hand on this for sure. I don't know if I was called, but I was willing to do it. So in some way, um, I think when we have the will to do, the Lord will bless us. I'm not a professional writer, as Gainalyn said, not even an expert in the podcast area. But I strive to be um, better. I have the willingness, and I like to learn fast. So I'm a fast learner. And I think that's how the Lord blesses us, how they grow. He builds us on what He wants us to be.
It's also interesting. I'll ask you this question in a minute, Galen, so be ready, but I'm going to ask it
Okay.
to Caroline first. Taking the opportunity, whether just because it's something that you're musing and doing or for some sort of hobby or project, to be able to look at your life and recognize God's hand in your life or your journey, hand in hand with God is a pretty tremendous gift. What did you learn about you and about God, or about you and then slash and God, from looking back at your life and putting together this project?
Yes, first of all, we cannot, the journey doesn't fit in everything in here, right? We have some much more stories that I would like to share, but unfortunately, there wasn't enough space or time. But I feel like, let me, I feel like how my connection, I think I got alive, and especially because the editor say, okay, try remember what was said on this specific when my parents they passed away. They were both in different hospitals. My mom fighting with cancer, my father waiting for a liver transplant.
Oh, yes.
It was like a really hard time. And then when you go back and relive this, how to say,
Hmm.
um, relive the moment again and remember all people involved, how we were helped, and how we were being comforted by the Holy Ghost in that time. That was like another testimony. Then brings me back to. I always remember what President Nelson talked about, the momentum, get the momentum, and then we are reminded of those momentums that we had, and that built me my spirit strong, my testimony strong, and yes, it's like if I for me it's very easy to recognize the Lord's hand when I go back and I see all my journey through until I was born until where I am now, and with the everything was because of our God, our Jesus Christ. Because if it was not for Him, I wouldn't be here talking to you right now, and everything has been blessing me. So I'm really thankful for that.
Yeah. Okay, again, Lynn, same question to you.
Well, Caroline makes me cry, so then now I have to talk, and
That's why I did that way. I
that
like to
was
hear
so
you try and put sentences together while you're
that
crying.
was so nice of you. I feel the same way. It was interesting. I almost was not sure I had another book in me because I've already published a lot of my stories in
Mhm.
different projects, and so to write this as more of an arc of my whole life was what I learned the most. And I start out with my Walking with Jesus viral video, and that was kind of my thread and my arc in telling my story of how from my childhood and going through parents' divorce and single mom and then losing my baby sister and then growing up in a community where I was the only member of my faith and really kind of in my high school junior high community, I'm still kind of their token Mormon friend, and they love the church and they love me and they're supportive, and I have this diverse community. And how I can see looking back that walking with Jesus and keeping um, on that path and returning to it when I keep falling off, it was a really big gift for me to try to write a life arc instead of just a section or a theme here and there.
Mhm.
And for me, it was also emotional. Like I've written about Meg dying by suicide. I've written about lupus and infertility. I've written about going through unemployment. But to write it in kind of a totality experience and looking back, seeing that the Savior really has been with me, and that especially this last year and a half, Richie, I think you and I have talked a little bit over the last year and a half. There were a lot of endings this year for me, and I had been in 9 months of meetings of doing a big part of a docuseries, and I pulled out last minute because the contract didn't feel comfortable. And when readers read our stories, I hope they see that Jesus has been with them in their way and their
Yeah.
walk. But for me, I also see that a lot of the endings and the quick stops that felt kind of traumatic this last year and a half, where I was trying to grapple, God was getting me ready.
Mm.
I really feel, to answer your question, for this project. Like nothing was lost. And maybe people are listening to this interview and they're not going to read the book and they're feeling that. They're feeling like they're going through unemployment or they're going through a divorce or they have a cancer diagnosis or they're grieving the loss of something, and it's not looking the way they thought. They thought God was getting them ready for this big thing, and it doesn't look like that. my invitation is, I hope you will pick up the book, because these women are extraordinary and they helped me feel like I could see God in my story because of their stories. And sometimes that's why we read scripture, because we get to the end of the chapter and it's been 300 years and all of a sudden we see a resolution, but we're in the middle of our own 30-year journey and it doesn't look like it's making sense. And so for me to write this, it's forced me to kind of see an arc in my own life and honor that God was there and things weren't lost, even though it sometimes felt like things were being stripped away or taken away or lost. And God's economy doesn't make sense to me, because he takes the losses and the trauma and he can make beauty from ashes. I don't know how that happens, and sometimes it takes a long time, but I hope this book helps readers feel that in their life is happening too.
I got a few more questions for you. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and get to those questions. Plus, Caroline, you don't know this, but there are 3 questions that we ask everyone who steps into the Cultural Hall. I'll ask those of the both of you. We'll come back and we'll do that in the second half of this interview. bestdjinutah.com is the website. That is where you go if you would like me to come and DJ your event. Now, will I do a family reunion where you all wear the same t-shirts? You bet I will. Will I travel to wherever you're at? Am I reasonable as far as what I cost? Yes. Do I bring a good time? Yeah, all the things. Listen, Best DJ in Utah, it's my company. It's a thing I do that allows me to be able to have the time to do the Cultural Hall. So if someone's getting married, you think, man, they need a great DJ. You're throwing a party, whether it's a 50th or 60th or 40th or 20th or whatever the party is. I've done them all and would love to be able to do that. An anniversary party, certainly done those. I did a baptism in 2023. Yeah, we did a big dance party at a baptism. Spoiler, not a Mormon baptism, but it was fun nonetheless. bestdjinutah.com is a website. I will get back to you within 24 hours with a quote. Come on now. bestdjinutah.com.
Imagine running a small business today. It's challenging. Imaging and internet presence is an absolute must. Even with that, you're still a small star in a bright cyber universe. Now, imagine you have someone who understands how to get your site designed for your talents and then easily searched by potential clients. Imagine Lennon Design. Whether it's strictly a website or a whole package of logo creation, advertising media, and promotional materials, Lennon Design is your partner in business. They'll test the boundaries of their imagination to create something unique for you. When you need creative, affordable design, let it be Lennon Design. Call 801-699-3022 or visit lennondesign.com.
Here in the second half, if you guys want to email us, you always can. Contact at theculturalhall.com. If you think, man, I love Caroline and Gainalyn so much, you can always send that email, and we'd love to get emails like that. If you want to send us an email that says something like, Richie, I understand why you never wanted Gainalyn on in the first place, you can send that email as well. We can commiserate. I know, but here's the thing. She's so darn sweet that once you have her in your life, you can't get rid of her. You love her so much, even if you want to, you can't. That is the... I'm kidding, of course. Contact at theculturalhall.com. I don't know why it ever got to be that way, Gainalyn, but you
I don't know either.
had that relationship since I very first met you.
Yeah.
And I love that I can be that way with you.
You're the brother that teases me that I've never had or knew I didn't really want. Did you know if I said that? Yeah.
You're the brother I never wanted. We have talked about this briefly, but Gainalyn, walk me through who these, I know we can't, here's what I know you're going to do to me, and I'm just going to ask you to push through this. Tell me who the women are, and you're just going to have to be like,
brief.
This person, who this, and this person, who this. I know that they are all wonderful.
Okay.
They all have amazing stories, but like, if you can be like, hey, this woman, this woman, this, just to give some context. People, she is showing you the cover of the book if you're watching this video.
Yeah.
But you tell me, like, name a person, and then people might know her from this.
Okay, I'm going to do this. Carry on, top row next to Fernanda. People would know her in New Zealand. She's very well known there. She's not big on social media, but Queen Elizabeth gave her an award. She feeds homeless people and like literally saves the world. Carry on from the UK. Okay. Fernanda Bohm, people know her from Bohm Clothing. She has multiple stores across the nation, and she's from Brazil as well, and amazing. Gainalyn Condi, I don't know if you need to talk about her.
Yeah, she's not that great, I've heard.
Allison is Hong Merrill is an author and from Taiwan and is a convert. and her story is inspiring. Kimberly Dowdle is big on TikTok and Instagram, and she is a Down syndrome advocate. Her son Jack is Down syndrome, and she's brilliant and on YouTube as well. LDS Prepper Girl is what Shayla Egan is known for, and she's her story is about running in the Boston Marathon and how she ran for a friend, and she's a big prepper online. Esther and I met each other forever ago. Esther Jackson Stoll is from Nigeria and is a convert and is also a real estate agent, has a master's degree. She's just phenomenal. And Caroline is amazing. She's a podcaster, real estate agent, mom from Brazil, and she's so beautiful and has the greatest skin of all. Like literally every time I'm around Caroline, I'm mesmerized about her beautiful skin. And I'm the oldest grandma in the book, so I'm obsessed with how beautiful these women are inside and out. Did I do good?
Yeah, that was great. You did what I thought might be impossible for you to do.
I did it.
And sidebar, I don't notice stuff like this because I'm a dude and dudes don't notice stuff like this. Caroline does have great skin. I noticed from the second that we started talking.
No, literally.
I was like, she has really great skin.
And in person, it's not a filter. Like she came to my house, we gathered last night. Most of the women, one was sick and one had another engagement. Caroline walked in, I'm like, oh my gosh, I think her skin is always like a luminescent, like the spirit, like she's just glowing.
Sure.
She's so glowing. Yeah.
Just some makeup.
It's the Brazil. That's what it is.
It's the Brazil. Brazilian women are her and Fernanda. All of them are so beautiful. Yeah. So beautiful.
All women are beautiful. I know.
Yes.
We have to be very careful with what we say. Now, here's the thing that I think is interesting about this project and what I initially thought. So let me just share you my.
Oh no! What did you originally think?
So I thought, all right, we're riding coattails, ladies. That's what I thought first of all.
Yes.
Oh, I'm going to hitch my my bandwagon here, because people are talking about this, and this is going to show up in SEO searches and some of those other things. So, to me, I went, oh, we're hitching here. I don't blame you necessarily if that's what you were doing, but I was like, okay. And then I thought a little bit more about it, and I'm like, oh, here are a bunch of women that are going to say what it's like, as you already addressed, what you guys are not doing, which is like, those women are not Mormon. We're Mormon. We wear the underwear. We, all the different things like that. So grateful to know that that's not what it is.
Not at all.
But there was a certain part of it that I sort of, I thought much longer about. One of the big successes of reality TV in general, but certainly of the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, is the drama. I'm going here, so hang on. You watch the show, and it's a medium where you're watching it, and you see sort of the interaction with all of the different people. And I thought, ladies, you're great. You're never going to be able to put reality TV in a book ever.
Right.
That's not how that medium works. That's not how it's going to go. And what some people really like is the drama of a reality TV show. And I thought, it might miss and fail because of that. Not because your stories aren't great, not because of any of that kind of stuff, but the people that would be looking for something like this would love maybe your guys' lives if they could just know the drama of your lives. And I think that to me, what I finally came around in when you're talking about, that each of us have our own story, that we have these dramas that play out in our own life, whether it's parents in the hospital or a sister who dies by suicide or whatever these things are. I mean, those are both really terrible examples, but they can also be these great success, dramatic things. All of our lives have all of these things. And I think being able to have the stories, be able to read and to follow from each of you women about your own, air quotes, drama in your life, I think that will sustain the people that are looking for you guys going to Las Vegas and putting oil on Chippendales, right? Like it's not that kind of thing, but it is like, oh my gosh, how amazing it would be to, have my kid go on a mission and, oh no, now, someone is diagnosed with something terminal and they're gone. And it feels more authentic rather than sometimes we watch these shows and go, they made them do that. They pushed that on them so that there could be some sort of drama. So I guess I just took a really long time to say that the drama is your life. And I think that knowing that that is a faithful perspective of looking for and recognizing God's hand in your life is dramatic. And I think that that is great.
Can I say that
Nope, you can't. Okay, yeah, you can.
Caroline's association with the musical to the Book of Mormon, I think it translates here too. I agree with you. Like, people that love reality television, reading a book is a different experience. But I also, as a published author, still wrestle with the process of bleeding on the keys to try to get the words out, because books live long. And I'm not taking away from a medium that is binge watching or what that gives us as well. But I love that a book can be passed on and shared versus a reality show. I guess you can share a link.
Mhm.
And that it lives long on someone's shelf so they can pick it up and feel like they have a friend or someone that understands their life experience, because it lives on the page long. And so it's not to take away from that medium. And I had the same question of like, yes, there, that coattails comment, you know, for the criticisms of the title in this sea of books on Amazon, or this billions of posts on social media, when you're trying to stand out and say, hey, stop scrolling and pause, the marketing of this book was intentional. It was intentional to say, if you saw the Book of Mormon musical and you want to know more, pick up the book. The church did that brilliantly. And if you watch the reality show or other reality shows or Hugh Grant's horror movie and you have a misconception or questions about the church, it's not to take away from what other people have put out there, but there is a bigger conversation and it's going to live longer on a page. And I think what I felt most inspired by, I'm going to take Fernanda as an example. She's the first chapter in the book. She's known for this fashion story, and it's a beautiful story of like grit and almost shutting the doors and all that. But on the side of that, she has a nonverbal autistic daughter. And I just think that's a reality for a lot of families, right? That we all do this on social media to each other. We think we're all just, Richie is this great podcaster guy and he's funny and he does DJ work. And Caroline is this beautiful skin Brazilian goddess that does real estate and podcasting, right?
Yeah, and those things, by the way, about Caroline are real. But go
They
on.
are real. They're totally real. But the truth is, all of us are these layers. And I hope that readers, we have sent out individually to pre-readers a download of the book. And it's been so beautiful to hear people that are active members of the church and never members of the church not wanting to put it down. So somewhere in our imperfect writing and telling of our stories, there's something that has engaged people to stay awake all night and want to get through our stories. So I'm grateful for that. And it is not the same medium of what we get from, I like a good reality show binge. I do. I love watching docuseries. Those are my genre. I love genres that feel real and alive. And I feel like this book, maybe Caroline can talk to this. I feel like, you know, someone said last night to me that's in the book, yeah, you kind of said a little awkward thing there. Yeah, Richie knows me. I'm awkward. Like,
Yeah.
It didn't get edited out, you know, and I didn't get a ton of time to do fine tuning of editing. And there are stories missing and things out that I'm like, and I've surrendered that because it's not a complete whatever. But I hope there's some grit and heart that I think is why people love reality TV, right? Like, I think we've done that. We've put enough grit and heart and inspiration and faith, and it's just narrative. And so I hope people sit with us and feel like they get to know us in a different way. So
Caroline, let me ask you that. Oh, go ahead. You were gonna.
No, I was just gonna say I agree totally, because I feel like this is just part of our lives that are shared in there. We didn't have much time to edit it, or but it's like it's what it is, the imperfection that makes us who we are, not so secret, right? Those imperfections make us our daily lives just um just being like who we actually are, how we live the gospel, what Jesus Christ means to us. And of course, we all have dramas in our lives. We all are full of stories, but I feel like we got different stories here. We have a lot of diversity and amazing chapters that we can relate. Of course, I think anyone from around the world is going to relate to each one of our stories. Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of the book. So you read and you learn and you share, because I love to listen to everyone's stories. It's amazing to see how people grow, how they face their challenges, and why they are uh, who they are, and why they act the way they act. So I like to see what's the background, what happened, and that's what makes my love increase for my neighbor, because I know him,
Mm.
right? Like
Mhm.
we know people, and that's the beauty of the gospel. When we know people, when we get to minister them or do whatever when we get closer to them, then our love grows, and we grow as a community, we grow as a city, as country.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
I
have
love
to
my
know. I have to know this. Did either of you guys actually watch the Hulu series?
I've watched all of it.
Yeah, you guys
yes.
both did.
Not all the women in the book have. And so when people ask us about like our judgment or are we making a judgment about the women, we
Mhm.
are all united in the fact that we're grateful for them.
Sure.
But some of us haven't watched it, and I have. And so when you make certain comments about certain episodes, I know exactly what you're referring to. And I do feel, I'm not just saying that for PR, like I am grateful these women started a conversation. What I've been saying in my interfaith community that I've been building online is that our church is relatively young.
Mhm.
So when you meet a Catholic or a Jew, when they say I'm Jewish, you don't know what that means. Are they eating kosher? Are they Orthodox? Or do they go to synagogue every week? Or are they on some version of that? But that religion is old, right?
Mhm.
They've already had that growing pain. When I am with my Catholic friends or my Muslim friends and they say to someone, I'm Catholic, does that mean you go to church, mass on every day, every week, or only on Christmas and Easter? I think members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are going through a growing pain right now,
Sure.
where there's a bigger conversation of what Mormon is on a cultural term and what it indicates to your neighbor when you say it. It doesn't tell you about devotion or how orthodox you are or whatever. And so we understand that the show presented that and that was an important part of a growing church, right? It's important that we say to the world, if I identify as Mormon, it doesn't necessarily tell you about if I pay tithing or if I don't drink certain things.
Mhm.
But there is a need, and I have felt some gratitude from people saying, finally, we get to have a different layer that never gets gotten to, because we're not reality television women and we're not movie stars or football stars or the Osmonds. And so the everyday person, this book I'm so proud of because it shows diversity and it's a cross section, but it does represent a different layer that I don't think gets represented a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
well, go ahead, Caroline.
I no, I also watched the Hulu show, and I was in the end of the show, I thought, well, if I find these women in front of me, what is my desire? Like I would talk to them and hug them and have no, just show love, because
Same.
I think that's what it is. And and how Gainling beautifully said, they start the conversation, so we are grateful for them. The church is a hospital, right? Everybody's there to heal, to find comfort, to be better. So we are not in a position to judge anyone.
Sure.
But it was nice. I feel love for them. I feel if I see them, it would be nice to talk to them, and
Mhm.
somehow they're helping us with our project,
Sure.
and we are grateful. Yes, for sure.
And I ran into Taylor Frankie once at the pool and Jess once at a hair salon. And so they don't know me, but I feel the same. Like open invitation. They probably don't need to have a hug or a talk with me, but I'm grateful that
Yeah, true.
I'm grateful they're sharing their version of their lived experience. And I hope people will give us a chance to share our version of our lived experience so the conversation keeps happening. It is not a statement about anyone else. It is just saying, there's a bigger conversation to be had, and we want to honor what they've shared in the way in their medium, and we're sharing it in our medium. And yes, obviously from the title and the book cover, we know exactly why this conversation is happening right now. Like
Sure.
we're not ignorant to why it's
Sure.
happening. It's happening because ABC is now re-releasing the first season, and there's going to be multiple seasons, so this is not going away, you
Yeah.
know.
I don't know that it was Lindsay Hansen Park that coined the phrase, or someone within Sunstone, but the phrase that came to mind that there's more than one way to Mormon is what
Yes.
you sort of
Yes.
really grab onto. There are 3 questions, Caroline, that we ask everyone who steps in the cultural hall. Gainalyn has done these before, but we find that answers sometimes will change just from the passing of time on a couple of them, and sometimes just where people are in their life as far as the other one goes. The first question that we ask everyone is, do you have a calling right now? And if so, what is it? Caroline, do you have a calling?
I do. First counselor in the primary.
Oh, okay. All right. And Gainalyn?
I am a Relief Society teacher for like the 5th or 6th time in my life. So I
Oh,
think they're tired of me, but I don't know. I don't
Yep.
know.
But they put you in that position officially because they would get tired of your comments where you would tell a story
Wait,
and then you would teach a principle at the end of
yeah,
your comment, and they're like,
yeah, I
listen,
see,
if she's going
I
to
see a
comment
theme
this
here.
way.
Do you have a Ring doorbell in my Relief Society room in my chapel, Richie? Are you stalking me?
Yeah, I just know you well enough. I
Yeah,
just
you
know
do
you
know
well
me.
enough.
Yeah, you do.
Caroline, if you could pick a calling for yourself, either one that exists or make one up, what would you pick?
Um, I I love to work with the women of the church, so Relief Society. I love Relief Society and I love the youth too of the church. So primary for me is like it's been a while since I worked directly in primary. I was in nursery for a while, but not
That's not
but
the same. That is not
yeah,
the same.
but I'm loving it. It's been amazing because my kids are teenagers now, so I don't have primary kids anymore. So it's been really nice how we get to love those kids and build a relationship. So I
Awesome.
yeah, but I love Relief Society.
Sure. What I heard is Caroline just doesn't want to have to do anything to do with the men of the church. That's what I heard. She's like, the kids, you bet. Women, uh-huh. The men, forget it. Somebody else deal with those guys. I'm not interested. Gaylin, what would you pick?
I've said this on the Cultural Hall before, so it's not going to be breaking news. I have never had this calling and I still want it. And if anyone's listening, I want to be the librarian. Want I want to organize the library and talk to people for my calling. That's what I want to do.
Okay.
Okay.
I think I mean that's a shifting calling.
I know. I feel like it's not used like it used to be in the day where we had to go check out a picture in chalk.
Sure.
Now we just bring our tablets and do it ourselves. So maybe it would be really boring. Maybe no one would come talk to me and I wouldn't need to reorganize. So maybe I need to come up with a new calling. I don't know.
Listen,
They
no
still
judge.
go and make copies. They still go to the
Oh, you're
library.
right. They still need to sometimes I still do paper copies for my lessons and the other teacher does a PowerPoint. And so I am still old school and 53 and a boomer
Yeah.
in everything that I do.
Well, okay, boomer.
Boomer. Yeah.
All right, last question that we ask everyone who steps into the cultural hall. You get to interpret this question however you would like. Gainlin, I'm going to have you go first because Caroline has not heard this question before and she may need a minute. But the question is, what is your favorite part of your faith?
Why does that make me cry, Richie? Geez, I think I need more sleep or something. Because I think right now, today, my favorite part of my faith is the diversity of our faith. I love that Jesus meets us where we're at, and we're all in many ways united because of Christ, but different. And I think our divinity is found in our diversity. And I love that about a global church.
Have you memed the divinity is found in our diversity yet? Because that seems like that is a Gainlin meme.
I've posted it a few times, but maybe you need to make a meme for me with your Richie Flair.
That's beautifully said. I was sort of just giving you a hard time, but that is a great, our divinity and our diversity. That's incredible.
I think we're going to be shocked when we get to Zion and realize how different we all are and how beautiful that's going to feel. And so if we're not practicing that now and getting comfortable with that, we're kind of behind the counterpoint.
Well, and Gainalyn, this shows the different kind of people that you and I are. You're like, I think we're going to get there, and I think we're going to feel, that way about that. And I'm going to get there and be like, see, I told you, everyone, you just wouldn't listen to me. See, I was right, and y'all treated me like I was a big weirdo. Look now, look at this.
And what will you say? Gainalyn loved me from day one and stalked me.
Yes. See? All right, Caroline, what's your favorite part of your faith?
My favorite part of my faith is that the Lord still amazes me. Every day I think I know something, but I know that I don't know anything. He always knows more than me, and his wisdom, I think that amazes me. that's what I want for me. I want to be wise. And I think that's what really amazes me. It's his wisdom.
I love it. Beautifully said. Ladies, we hope that this episode has nourished and strength. Actually, hold on. Let me tell people. You can find a link to purchase the book in the show notes. It's The Not So Secret Lives of Real Mormon Wives, the eye-opening new book from Cedar Fort Publishing and Media. So you can get it in time for Christmas. If you order it now, buy it for all your folks. Buy them 10 copies, and then they can give out the other 9 copies to other people. I'm waiting for when we get the Amazon bestseller. It's coming. You get
we already had it for 5 days.
But don't you have to have it for a certain time before it's just bestseller already done?
We've had the label and the button. I don't know the word for it, but
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the publisher is in awe of wait, the book's not even officially out until Monday, which I think is when this episode is dropping, right? So help us make that real for Black Friday.
Yes. Buy the book and buy 10 copies for your friends. And then
give it to your never member friends so
yes.
that they get to keep asking questions about what your faith is about for you.
Yeah. Although if we keep calling them never member friends, they're never going to join the church because they have to stay with what we call them.
Listen, okay, I said non-members the other day, and then I said never members, and then this lady messaged me, and I gave her an explanation because I heard non-member is offensive, and so I'm trying to be politically correct.
Don't.
Okay, don't try to be politically correct. Okay. No. But listen, Zion's going to have non-members that were never members, so get ready. They're going to be there.
I told you.
Spoiler alert!
We could go off on that for a bit. We hope this episode has nourished and strengthened your body. And that if you weren't healthy enough to listen this week, that you'll be healthy enough to listen next week. And that when the time comes, you will be able to travel home in safety. In the meantime, Chris at Alpine Lakes Travel, Rick McGee, Debbie Wanless, Chocolate Cake Bites Podcast, and the Tiger with a U will be saving a seat for you on the back row of the Cultural Hall.
Save me a seat, it's sure to be neat on the back row. We read